Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Wade Watches. I'm Wade. Welcome to the first edition of my annual Scaring Myself Shitless, SMS for short, Halloween review series. That is right. Before you say anything, yes, I am getting started super early this year. I just can't help it. We're seeing a lot of horror releases this September. We got Beetlejuice coming out. Shaun of the Dead and Coraline have been re-released. I'm seeing Halloween stuff up in the stores, and I know that's been a thing for years, but I don't know. Why do I have to explain myself? I can't help it. I love Halloween. I wanted to get started on Scaring Myself Shitless reviews early this year, and I'm not gonna apologize for it. So with that out of the way, welcome to the very first edition of Scaring Myself Shitless, and even to my surprise, like I'm surprised that I'm like considering this one an SMS review. More on that later. I guess I'm. What am I doing? I'm about to give away. I'm about to give away the ending, but I'm surprised that I'm considering this one. But it technically counts as a horror movie. So we're starting off our Scaring Myself Shitless series with AfrAId from 2024. That's right, we're starting it off with a movie that is still in theaters, just came out last weekend, and this is directed by Chris Weltz and stars John Cho, Catherine Watterson, Lukita Maxwell, Havana Rose Liu, and David Dast Malchen. Hope I pronounced that right. So, okay, so for those of you who have seen my out of theater reaction for AfrAId, you would know that I was not expecting a lot from it because these just these PG-13 rated like 90-minute long horror movies that we've gotten this year have not been the best. Night Swim and Imaginary were just weren't just the best. No, I mean Night Swim, I didn't hate it as much as everybody else, but it still fell short. So I was going into this thinking, not 90-minute piece of shit horror movie, PG-13 rated. Here we go again. And that's definitely the way it's being advertised and marketed. Like, we made this movie for cheap. Look, it's an evil AI terrorizing a family. We're just gonna put it out in theaters, so jumpy teenagers will go out and see it. We can make our money back on like a $20 million budget or whatever. Let me check the budget for this. Yep, $12 million. So even lower. Yeah, we can make our money back because it only cost $12 million to film this. So let's do it. And I was mostly right. I was mostly right. Um, but that being said, it's not the worst. And you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say right now, I genuinely did enjoy this more than Night Swim and definitely more than Imaginary. So there you go. AfrAId did manage to beat out the PG-13 90-minute long horror movies so far this year, because that's not necessarily always a bad thing. One of my favorite movies, which will definitely be reviewed this year for the SMS series, is roughly a 90-minute long PG-13 rated horror movie that I find genuinely terrifying. So that's not always a terrible thing, but this year it just hasn't worked. But AfrAId was a bit better than those films, and I can say that is definitely because of how the story plays out. Um, for It's more conceptual than, like it's just straight up like it's straight up AI terrifying the family in so many different ways. It's definitely like more, or at least attempts to be more about like asking those questions about how that relationship between artificial intelligence and humanity, which is a hot topic right now. A lot of people are afraid of, are paranoid about, like, the increase of like our usage of AI and all sorts of different things. And this movie knows that, and it capitalizes off of that fear. And just its opening credits alone, just starting out with, kind of one of those uncanny looking AI generated videos, you know what this is going to be about. But it never, to this film's credit, I really didn't feel like it wasn't like overly preachy, like AI is evil. The characters in the film weren't like, like there was just not that, like, like technophobic like kind of like stance on it that was like just trying to preach to the audience about how evil artificial intelligence was. And that's good because a lot of, you know, movies that have been about like technophobia or artificial intelligence conquering humanity have also been kind of implicit and more along the lines of like kind of a cautionary tale, a warning about what happens when you become too dependent on this technology, or when mankind tries to create something too big for it to handle. And I just wasn't expecting that from AfrAId. I thought it was going to be like AI is evil, and of course there are points where that's said, but I just didn't feel like I was like getting like a 90-minute long anti-artificial intelligence lecture. The movie makes it very plain that it's not AI in general that's evil. It's Aya, our artificially intelligent villain here, that is evil. And you know what? Aya is actually a pretty legitimate threat when she's utilized properly. Some of the stuff that she does is genuinely unsettling and creepy. I felt like they did use her to good effect. But however, near the climax, near like, you know, that climax to the end, I once again it was like, wow, that's it. Okay, oh well, so much for that. But then I felt like kind of at the last minute, they're like, wait, there's more, and then it ends, and I was just kind of like, pick a fucking lane, like really, because I know for a fact. Well, okay, I don't know for a fact. What am I saying? I felt like I'm almost certain that you tacked that on at the last second because we got to make more of these, you know. So yeah, the ending just felt like kind of anticlimactic and rushed, and then it tries to be like, wait, we're not done yet, and I'm like, but you just what? But I get it. Like this is gonna make its money back. I'm certain that it's gonna make its money back, and we're gonna be seeing more of these. It's Blumhouse and Sony together. I mean, come on. But you know, you could have fleshed that out a bit more. I just felt like the ending was just rushed. There's this like whole kind of like there's this like subplot in this film as well that I felt was just very unnecessary. It just felt like remember, we're also a straight up horror movie too. This is Sony and Blumhouse. We gotta have something like this in here. And I was like, okay, firstly, if this was like real, and I get that horror movies, we gotta sometimes sacrifice logic. We have to have characters doing dumb things because if they acted rationally, the movie would be over. But no. The little subplot they have here, it's like you would have just you. I'm trying to. I'm trying not to give away anything, but I will say this: you would have just called the cops. Like the way you're talking about it, like you address that this is a bizarre thing that's happening, and later on you say like, well, this is really, why is this happening? Who's this? You would have just called the freaking police. Like if you were like aware that this was happening like in front of your home for days, if this wasn't the first time that you saw something like this right in front of your house, you would have called the police. You would have threatened to call the police. So that definitely took me out of it. Apart from that, like it felt like this movie AfrAId didn't genuinely was trying to say something. I felt like there was at least an attempt to have this threat be taken super seriously. Of course, they kind of have to make some corny jokes because we got to take digs at Alexa. We gotta we gotta make those jokes about AI. But for the most part, I felt like they were trying to say like this is genuinely serious and this is how things could go if we don't slow down with this. And I was like, okay, respect. But unfortunately, and I think this was mostly due to like studio interference, those two things that I just mentioned, kind of like that rushed ending and that like forced cliffhanger, and then this whole other element that had no place in the movie outside of we're a horror movie. Remember, we're a horror movie. We're not a technophobic thriller. We are a Blumhouse horror movie. That those two things really brought this down for me, really made it that much less enjoyable. But I'm still gonna be merciful here, and wrap this up by giving Afraid a very, very low, teetering on like a 6 out of 10, because this did somewhat surpass my expectations. I was engaged when the movie was solely focusing on, the main antagonist, the main threat, focusing on how, and I almost forgot to mention this. I genuinely felt for the protagonist. This family, they were relatable, they were down to earth. Each member of the family was going through something, and it was cool to see how, this when this artificial intelligence is introduced into their home, how it kind of seduces them, because it, of course, it's very intelligent, it's almost borderline omniscient, and it's like, hey, I know what you're going through. Let me help you with that. It was kind of cool to see that kind of like unsettling but somewhat endearing dynamic, because it's like, hey, maybe this thing really can help me. But they throw away that subtlety. They throw away that thought-provoking question with that typical Blumhouse, Sony, oh, beat you over the head, beat you in the face with it, climax and ending, and that forced plot point, because it's like, we gotta have this because, ooh, spooky and creepy, which is like, that wouldn't have even have been a thing if this was even remotely trying to be authentic, because you would have just called the police. I sure as hell would have. I saw some shit like that outside of my house, not just once, but like at least like 3 times. But yeah, wrapping it up, I'm still gonna give Afraid a 6 out of 10. A perfectly enjoyable PG-13 rated 90-minute long horror movie that is not as bad as the other two ones in that category that I've seen this year. I was more engaged with this one than I was with those previous two ones. The story was actually pretty solid when they were trying to be serious and thought-provoking with it. The only thing that really drags it down are those two things. But the rest of it, perfectly enjoyable, somewhat silly, stupid horror movie fun. So 6 out of 10 for Afraid. This has been another edition of Weight Watches, and I'll see you all next time with more. Peace.